And I'd like to introduce the panelists, our panel leader, Jeremy Masters.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeremy Masters with WorkLogix, and Andrea, thank you, and thanks everyone at SAPexperts and WIS, the WIS family, for having us here. We are going to have hopefully a much like a dialogue in the next 45 minutes when we talk about the recent enhancements to ESS and MSS. I know that there's a lot of questions, especially with obviously the new SuccessFactors acquisition, on really what does self-service look like in the new paradigm. So we'll be getting to that. We'll also be talking about mobile. Of course, ESS and MSS can be done through a mobile device. So we're going to touch on that as well. And then we're also going to open up for questions and take any of your questions and have that dialogue. So I'd like to introduce the panel members here. I'm happy to be on stage with three experts in the field. The first expert, Gertrude Beisel, is the solution owner for SAP-HCM, Employee and Manager Self-Service on any device, which means desktop, mobile, whatever. And before taking that role, she was the HCM application consultant and solution manager for the Business by Design. So Gertrude, welcome. Michael White is a senior SAP technical consultant at Exoserve, and he has a lot of expertise in many areas: organizational management, payroll, time, administration, forms, workflow. The list goes on. So we have a real true techno-functional expert here as well in Michael. So Michael, welcome. And lastly, we've got Jacob Crane, who has more than 7 years of experience in SAP Employee Manager Self-Service. And again, another techno-functional guru. And his expertise is around ESS, MSS, workflow. And I've had the pleasure of working with Jacob on several projects, and he's from EPIUS America. So we've got those introductions out of the way. And see, we have a nice crowd. So again, thanks again for coming to hear about the latest in ESS and MSS. So I guess we'll open it up with just a general discussion, and maybe Gertrude can maybe kick it off just to let us know a little bit about, from SAP, the roadmap. Let's maybe just focus on this year. I know there's a lot of activity. We heard this morning from David that there's even some mobile applications coming out with time entry and other things. So maybe just a quick update from SAP on ESS and MSS, and anything you'd like to share for the group. Get that working?
We'll get you level up.
Okay, we're going to get the mic working here.
You're good. Yep, you have to talk loud.
Yeah, so as you may know,
No, I don't think it's working.
that sounds better now. Even I can hear it. Yeah. So as you may know, we are on a journey with our ESS MSS. We started about 3 years ago, and then we delivered enhancements with EHP5, EHP6, and we will continue this year. So this year, the big thing for employee and manager self-service will be the Lanes UI. You may have seen the Lanes UI for the HR specialist in some other sessions here at an event, and we will also adapt this new concept for the employee and for the manager. Mm-hmm. And talking about any device, so we are in the process of designing this new UI, and it will be based on HTML5, SAP UI5, and that's the technical part. And from the design side, it's done with the mobile-first approach. So when we design the UI, we already have in mind that it may not just be used in the portal, but it may also be used on a tablet.
Okay.
That's supported by the technology, and but also from the design, you need to keep in mind that it may be used on different devices.
Okay. So as far as, thank you, Gertrude, that's a great insight. As far as the technical prerequisites, I know a lot of folks out here are probably on different versions of SAP, right? So ECC, some of you probably ECC 6, others are on prior versions. Is there what's the technical prerequisite? I don't need specific package numbers, but what's the approximate? What would people have to do to kind of get those Well, I guess the HR renewal and the lanes. We can talk about HR renewal separately, but from a technical prerequisite perspective, what are we talking about?
Yeah, so the lanes for ESS MSS are also part of the HR renewal program. So as the other deliveries that we have already done with feature pack 1 to 3 right now, also the lanes will still be based on EHP 6.
Right.
And it will come as feature pack 4.
Okay.
So that is currently planned for the July-August time frame.
So ECC 6 with enhanced pack 6?
ECC 6, enhancement pack 6, and it's an advanced shipment in advance for EHP 7.
So Michael, I don't know, have you had have you had a chance to see or feel or touch any of this, and being one of our technical gurus up here? Have you had a chance to?
Yeah, we have a sandbox environment that we've set up with HR Renewal 1.0 and Enhancement Pack 6. I really like what I see right now, just from a usability perspective. Obviously, the move to HTML5, that UI is a lot cleaner. It looks really, really good, and we've had the ability to test it on iPads, mobile devices, and we're getting really good feedback on how that looks and feels, and the functionality working correctly on those as well.
From a country rollout perspective, is it ready, plug and play for a certain amount of countries? Is it internationally? And what's the for those global customers out there? I know from my prior experience, we've had from prior ESS and MSS implementations, there's been some back in the old days with WebDimpro, Java, and there were some struggles with getting this self-service platform sort of internationalized. So is there is it more? I'm just curious. Is there going to be some more straightforward implementations to really make this a global self-service platform?
Well, I can let Gertrude answer some of that, but I do know that as far as Renewal 1.0 is concerned, it does roll out some China and India functionality. So it's definitely international enabled. There's some enhancements that have gone in from that perspective.
Is that a good answer? I mean, you don't need to.
Yeah, of course in ESS there's also always the international part. There are international services, so that will be supported. And then for the country-specific services, we usually have a roadmap where we usually cannot provide all the countries all at the same time, but there we will also convert it to the new technology.
Okay. So I'd like to thank you. So I'd like to ask either Michael or Jacob around the NetWeaver Business Client. So as some of you may or may know, there's an alternate front end for self-service. So now SAP offers, instead of the SAP portal as the presentation layer, you actually can now use, I see a lot of shaking heads, you can now use the NetWeaver Business Client to render self-services. The footprint of SAP Portal is actually quite large, at least from the clients that I have. So I'm curious, either of you, have you seen NWBC, this NetWeaver Business Client, have you seen this take at all? And maybe it's geographic, maybe it's geographic in how we're consuming that. Again, I see a heavy reliance still on the portal, especially when we get into a unified access, when we talk about success factors and that integration. But I'm curious, have either of you dealt with NWBC? Have you seen any clients really like it or take that forward?
Yeah, as far as that, we've been seeing a lot more interest in NWBC, especially just for background here. There's two different versions. There's a desktop version that requires support, just like rolling out the GUI, but there's also a web-based version. That web-based one, you can't use a portal with it, but drive everything off the back end. So there's been a lot of interest in that just because you remove that whole portal from your footprint there. So it's definitely easier to support. I mean, you lose a little bit of functionality that you can have with the desktop version. I know, for instance, on HR Professional, I believe the lanes don't work with the HR Professional role at this point, at least on the web-based version. But yeah, it's definitely taking off, especially just because of the decrease in infrastructure required. Okay.
Michael, have you seen... Thanks, Jacob. Have you seen NWBC being used at all, or?
Yeah, I think as Enhancement Pack 5 came out, there started to become a lot of interest in, what can we do without the portal now that all these ESS MSS services have transitioned to WebDimpro for ABAP? Right. Can we run something without the portal and just link it in?
Right.
I've seen a lot of interest. There's actually a customer that we're working on up in North Carolina that's been doing that, where they just have SharePoint and then the SAP NetWeaver Business Client and just running directly.
I don't think it makes it probably doesn't make a lot of sense for a customer who already has the portal to rip it out, right? I'm not seeing a lot of that. If you've invested in the NetWeaver infrastructure, you're probably not going to take to this NWBC. But if you're a customer that has not yet to get into the self-service space, it's an option, and it's a fairly reliable option with a low investment in the NetWeaver stack.
Especially if you already have a SharePoint portal built for your company, but you don't yet have an SAP portal.
Right. Just a matter of how you consume those services. Is it through the portal? Is it through WebSphere? Is it through SharePoint or whatnot?
Right.
So, okay, great. I also want to talk just a little bit, and Gertrude, maybe to clarify a little bit on HR renewal, because at least for me. What we're seeing with this unified access, with these new pretty lanes, and now going into the ESS and MSS, is just so we understand and get our terminology right. Is that also HR renewal? Like, how broad are we talking HR renewal? Just to clarify, because I know there's some folks that are a bit unclear of what all HR renewal encompasses versus what are some of the newer self-service deployments or practices going. So how do we sort of package this?
Yeah, I often get this question, what is HR renewal? So it's actually a program name that combines all these advanced shipments that we provide for the HR administrator or HR professional, as we call this role nowadays, and for the manager and for the employee. So I would say in last year the focus was a little bit more on the HR professional with the processes and forms and with the new lanes where the professional was basically the pilot for this new UI design. But now we will follow up in this year with the manager and the employee.
Okay. So
but it's all the three main roles for HR are these three roles, the professional, the manager and the employee, and they are all covered under the HR renewal because they all needed this modernization. They were all starting to look a little bit outdated, especially for the employee and the manager, where they are the casual users. They have this everyday web experience with the other modern web UIs, and there we really need to constantly update and invest to keep up to date and to keep looking fresh.
Okay.
Jeremy, can I please ask the speakers to hold the mic closer and keep it steady? We have a problem with lunch over here. We really apologize for this. We didn't anticipate this kind of noise over here, so if you can just please hold it up close. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
What's that?
Thank you. I think I was moving.
No worries. So let's maybe switch a little bit to mobile, and obviously I work with a lot of customers on mobile technology, using our mobile device to access self-service. And obviously with this new HR renewal, the use of HTML5 greatly, I guess, enables us to use mobile devices, whether that's your iPad, iPhone, Windows 8 device, or whatnot. I guess the question is for maybe out in the field with Michael or Jacob, how have you seen the mobility take up with your customers? Are customers interested in mobile right now, or are they struggling with some of the more let's say mundane areas of HR? Are we seeing the mobile? Because obviously there's a lot of hype, right? There's a lot of hype. We see it in David's presentation was well presented today about how important mobile is. We see some facts and figures about how it's going to take. But really out in the trenches where you guys are, how are customers warming up or asking for mobile product?
Sure. Well, at least for me, I think it's very industry specific. Okay. So I have a customer that's in the shipping industry where they have drivers out on the road, all week. They don't really have a central office or a terminal that they can come back to log in and process information that way. So they're very interested in anything that they can do from a mobile perspective where someone can just pull out their phone, their iPhone, their Android device, whatever, log into the system and be able to change their personal information, log their expenses, do their time entry, and anything along those lines. I mean, they're ecstatic over that functionality coming out.
Okay.
So for me, it's very industry specific. It depends on your business model and whether or not you have a more fluid force that doesn't really come to a central location where they have a computer that they come and work on every day.
Right.
But absolutely, I've been getting a lot of interest in it.
Okay. Jacob, from your side?
I would agree with that too. It seems to be a lot of the applications people are looking for tend to be very industry specific or business specific at this point. There's been a lot of interest, but not as much actual execution on people picking up mobility, it seems like, in the States. And it seems like one of the real reasons behind that right now is just because there's such a variety of platforms available. And we saw Sybase, but we haven't seen that real unification of technologies there. So I think this step forward using HR Professional, especially the integration with NetWeaver Gateway and some of those aspects really will probably help to push this a little more, because we'll have more of a unified platform where you can put your portal stuff and your mobile stuff in the same place.
Right.
And that will be your platform.
That's a great theme. I think unification, and when we talk about maybe we shift a little bit to SuccessFactors and the introduction of SuccessFactors and how that plays into everything across mobile and self-service. So obviously SuccessFactors has it's a cloud solution, has their own quote portal, and we've got on-premise our SAP portal. And as far as what I understand, the single point of entry or the single access point will be the SAP portal to gain access. So if you log, folks will still, employees, managers will still log into the SAP portal. Authentication will happen through that, through the SAP portal, and then you can access through single sign-on, and that's already possible now. There's already an administrator guide and everything to do it. You'll access your SuccessFactors talent modules through that means. I guess though, what I'm curious about, and from your perspective, is how does this sort of, for lack of a better phrase, muddy the waters in the whole experience from a usability, user experience perspective. I'm wondering, just thoughts on your take on what is it going to mean now when we've got, so some of our self-service is, we got our SAP payroll on-premise, time management on-premise, let's say, and I need to log into my SAP portal to access that stuff. And then, maybe I've got some talent stuff in SuccessFactors, and I'll need to, through single sign-on access, we're starting to get into this, environment that's a little bit muddy. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on maybe Gertrude. There's a stance from SAP, and then from the field, you guys, have you seen any thoughts around folks that you're dealing with? Gertrude, you want to? take that.
If I look at it from the user perspective, they will feel very little different. So they can still log into MSS, and then if you have already the single sign-on, and in the future there will also be a portal integration. So they log into MSS, and then if they in their menu, if they select, for example, performance management, this can launch the SuccessFactors screen. But for the user doesn't necessarily need to know or even notice that it launches SuccessFactors. Because for them it's just they navigate now to the talent management, and even though we are not planning to overhaul our ESS MSS completely and make it all look look the same, but even with the existing portal theming capabilities and configuration options, you can make it look pretty seamless. We have already some demo examples where we did it on a one-on-one basis, not fully configured for productization. That is only coming in Q2. But as an example, and the feedback we got so far was that it looks pretty consistent, and it's not at all disruptive that I now go to a different system.
Okay. Any thoughts on it, Michael?
I mean, from my perspective, I've been working on a project where we're actually implementing SuccessFactors and trying to get that portal integration in place right now. I think there's one major decision that you have to take into account is whether or not you want SuccessFactors to be embedded within your portal and provide the portal as a point of entry for that, or whether or not you want SuccessFactors to be launched in its own window, since it's really its own interface and its own UI. For how you can navigate on that top left-hand side, drop down, switch between different sections. From a theme and branding perspective, I agree with Gertrude. It's not that difficult to get a seamless theme in place, especially your color palette customization, everything like that. You can get a pretty seamless integration from that perspective. And then as of NetWeaver 7.3, you can do a SAML 2.0 integration from an SSO. Perspective, which allows you a seamless transition and authentication between your SAP portal and the SuccessFactors system. But I think she hit most of the major points. I think it's really just a matter of whether or not you want to treat SuccessFactors as its own web-based solution, or whether or not you want to integrate it and embed it within your portal content.
Let me ask you a question. So maybe this is for Gertrude. As far as self-service, is there going to be any? We know that on the mobile device there will be some more this year coming out with some mobile time entry. Is it CATs? So maybe net. I'm sort of interested in maybe some folks in the audience here. Net new ESS coming out, whether that be on device or on desktop.
Yeah, we have two approaches. Basically, the SAP UI5, which is a browser-based capability that can be used on the portal, but can be also used on a mobile device. And then we have real mobile apps that are developed as mobile apps. But there we also take the approach that we also develop it based on the SAP UI5, and that we also have in mind that it may use on different devices. So this year we will deliver the version 3 of the timesheet, which then goes beyond. Right now what is available already since last year is a very basic form of the timesheet that only supports HR fields, but with the new timesheet it will support all the CATS target applications. So it can really be used cross application, but at the same time it's also based on UI5, can be used with a smartphone, a tablet, and even on the desktop.
Maybe for the last question before we turn over to some questions for me is obviously, I think it was several years back that SAP and Adobe formed a partnership, and there was this offering for Adobe Forms, and this was, to be honest, a struggle for a lot of customers, and that's since been not abandoned. But I mean, SAP still supports the Adobe solution, I understand, but there is now a newer offering for for using WebDim for ABAP forms or e-forms, however you want to call it, to use drive some productivity, so around transfers, promotions, or whatnot. Maybe either for Jacob or Michael, have you seen clients take to this? Are customers asking for this functionality? Have you had a chance to either implement or at least tinker with the functionality?
Yes, there's definitely been a lot of interest in this. I think especially just the licensing costs associated with Adobe, since you don't have that now. So we have been playing with it a bit, and we have some clients that are working with it right now. But yeah, it's technically very different. You aren't working in lifecycle design anymore, but the fact that they've exposed that entire framework that underlies the original solution really opens up what you can do. Playing with the UI is definitely different with the changes in scripting, and you're using the floor plan manager now to actually build the forms. But overall, it seems that once it gets running, it's actually a little bit simpler, and in the long term, probably easier to support because you don't have such a diversity of skill sets required. Right,
and the integration with workflow is also a nice feature of that, right? I mean, if you maintain your proper org structure, chief positions and all that good stuff, then obviously, rolling out a form solution it just makes it a lot more more smoother, right?
Definitely, and you still have all the same process tie-ins, so it integrates just fine with workflow so
Great.
far. So.
Okay, so Bob, I think now we're gonna just give the folks in the audience a chance to ask your questions. We have again the three experts here, myself, to answer anything that we didn't get a chance to answer. I think I thought we hit on some pretty big topics. But if there's anything burning in your mind that you want to bring up now, please just let us know. We'll hand over the mic. Any questions on self-service? We've got one, Roger.
Thank you. There's a lot of focus on things like mobility, but one of the things that we were interested in, being a university and some of our public responsibilities, we were hoping that HTML5 or SAP UI5 or whatever it was you had referred to it as would help in terms of accessibility. Can you touch just briefly on any enhancements that were made to accessibility by moving to HTML5?
And when you mean accessibility,
like for screen readers and things for people with disabilities.
Oh, I see. Okay, yep.
Yeah, so all our functionality is in general tested for accessibility, and in many cases there are some alternative settings. So for example, in MSS we have a lot of graphics now, and that of course cannot be conveyed with a reader, so there are alternative settings how that can be converted into text that can be read. I'm maybe regarding the HTML5 specific, maybe you have some.
Yeah, one of the pain points really before in the previous versions with especially screen readers, if using something like JAWS for your vision impaired employees, is that the fact that those tools are really geared for a web application, and really a portal is really a much larger thing than just a web page. So sometimes even when you set the settings, you have problems with the navigation getting through because there's so many layers of pieces there. I haven't gotten to try it out in the new version, but moving to HTML5, we would anticipate that it would be better for this just because you don't have all that extra infrastructure going on with the portal there, and you would probably be able to use some of the elements in HTML5 to improve that. So I would expect it to be improved.
Thanks, guys. What other questions do we have over here? But wait for the mic.
Michael, can you talk a little more about the decision making if you're going to look at embedded or whether you're going to launch SuccessFactors as its own? What criteria to consider?
Well, I think part of it comes down to your branding decisions, obviously. When you have the SuccessFactors portal running as a standalone, you'll want to put your logo a little bit more front and center. They generally have an upper right-hand area where you can put your logo and the standard template. If you're embedding SuccessFactors within your SAP portal, that becomes much less of an issue. So you'll want to try and, I guess, take that real estate back, not have as much of a header area if you can, and limit the amount of embedded branding that you put in from that perspective. From a look and feel side, you just need to make a decision. I would remove the entire left-hand navigation when you embed it in. From the SAP portal's perspective, since really SuccessFactors has its own top left navigation drop-down that they need to be using. So removing that, hiding that permanently, I would definitely recommend that. And then just making sure that your theme and branding, your color palette obviously needs to be spot-on match. You can take whatever hex codes you have set up for your current portal theme and import that into SuccessFactors.
So Michael, how do you avoid a real estate, speaking of, let's talk about embedding, how do you avoid a real estate issue if we do, even if you get rid of the left side navigation and you embed it in there? I mean, a lot of these, like the SuccessFactors apps are, they're functionality rich, right? And so there's a lot there. I'm already foreseeing some challenges with scroll bar heaven, all that good stuff that we with when it comes to real estate. Is it just it is what it is, or do we buy a 22-inch monitor for everybody? Or
well, that would help, right? I think there's a couple things that you can do to try and clear up real estate within your portal theme. One of them is, if you're not already, you can switch over to the Ajax framework. So instead of the classic older SAP framework that most customers have in place, switching to Ajax gives you the ability within the top menu to select a full screen or a not full screen option, which collapses your entire top level navigation panel. That frees up, an inch or so of real estate on your screen monitor. The other option would be you can actually hide your top level navigation the second row. So if they select the SuccessFactors link or icon, you can navigate them to a top-level navigation of whatever with SuccessFactors, but the second-level navigation, you can actually hide that, and that can free up some real estate as well. The other thing we've seen is, obviously, the bigger your masthead image is on the portal, the more space you're taking up that never really provides an added benefit to your employees. So getting that down as small as possible while still maintaining your corporate branding standards
That's good advice.
is a big help.
Good.
I don't know if you have anything else, Jacob.
The masthead definitely there, and I was going to say a common thing is to use landing pages instead to put your branding there, get rid of the masthead almost entirely. That way it's just not to say it is your portal, then you can free up real estate. That's an easy inch.
Yep. Great. Okay, thanks guys. That was good technical. Sort of heading to geekdom, but I like it. This is what people want, right? So, what other questions do we have out there for the panel? Okay, I think. Oh no, there's one. Jay.
Yeah, I have a question. We're currently on Enhancement Pack 5, planning to put in Enhancement Pack 6 this quarter. We do not use the SAP portal. We're using the NetWeaver business client. Do we need to install an HR Renewal 1.0 by our basis team, or is that embedded as part of the Enhancement Pack 6 upgrade?
So for Enhancement Pack 6 to go to HR Renewal, it's a separate installation you add on top of it afterward. And there's some business functions you have to activate as well to get that functionality.
As well as some services.
So relatively plug and play. Okay. There's another question over here.
Yeah, my question is about the applications, the apps which are going to be delivered with the mobility. So those will also be a kind of add-on to Enhancement Pack 6, or will they be delivered as separate Enhancement Pack?
Yeah, so the specific mobile apps that we deliver this year are not linked to the enhancement packs. We actually from the back-end side, we only require ECC 6, so there's no enhancement packs required for that. There are specific add-ons for each mobile app. There is a specific add-on that will extract the data from the back end and communicate to the back end. As long as you are on ECC 6, then you can just install that add-on and then link your mobile app to the back end.
Okay. Other questions? And I have a short advertisement. If you're interested in a SAP Press book, there's actually two. One that I authored on several years back on ESS, and another by Martin Gillette, he's standing right over there. You can probably see him with a camera. Both are excellent books. So I'd also have you check that as a reference as well. So with that, I'm going to close. I want to thank Gertrude Beisel from SAP, Michael White from Exoserve, and Jacob Crane from EpiUse, and hand it back to Bob.
Yeah,
before we get
great
back
job
to
by the panel. Round of applause, please.
Yeah. Thanks.